evening and welcome to Tucker Carlson Tonight. It is day 2 of the Republican National Convention. The primetime portion of the program starts in about half an hour. We'll have extensive coverage of it on this show and throughout the evening here on Fox, so stay tuned for that. First Lady Melania Trump is the headline speaker tonight. The president also expected to make several appearances and break news in one of them. We'll have it. If you watched the program last night, you saw Patricia and Mark McCloskey on stage. They're the St. Louis couple threatened in their home by an angry mob of Joe Biden voters earlier this summer. Unlike so many victims of left-wing threats, the McCloskeys decided to defend themselves. And for that, the media vilified them, denounced them as lunatics and racists. Last night, the McCloskeys explained what they have learned from this experience. The Democratic Party, they said, has declared war on the middle class, Americans who pay their taxes, mind their own business with their families at home. Democrats want to punish people like this because they're too independent. They're not obedient enough. To do that, the Biden campaign is pushing what it's calling a fair housing initiative nationally. That would mean no more single-family zoning in your neighborhood. That would mean low-income housing could be moved next door, whether you like it or not. It's not up to you. It's no longer your neighborhood. It's controlled from Washington. In other words, you've worked your whole life to raise your kids in a safe place, but Democrats can make it dangerous overnight if they feel like it, and they may. But you should know that all of this only applies to middle-class neighborhoods. There aren't going to be any Section 8 apartments built in Aspen or in Martha's Vineyard. Oh, no. Barack Obama loves the idea of moving poor people from the cities to the suburbs. He just doesn't want it anywhere near him. Obama wants to live in the palest neighborhood he can find, and that's exactly where he does live. If there's one thing Barack Obama hates, it's diversity. How do we know this? Check out his real estate purchases. They always tell the real story, no matter what they say. Now, all of that is true, and precisely because it is true, you are absolutely not allowed to say it. CNN was outraged by the McCloskey speech. So the usual all-moron panel swung into action to denounce them. The McCloskeys have no right to defend themselves. They have no right to private property. And neither do you, bigot. Everything the McCloskeys said was totally untrue. CNN's fact-checkers were adamant about this, the falseness of the McCloskeys' claims. And then nightfall came. And once again, the mob descended on Kenosha, Wisconsin. And we learned that the CNN panel was lying to us. Joe Biden's voters really are a threat to you and your family. Here's what they did last night to the city of Kenosha. That video is just the beginning of it. There are hours and hours of video like that on the internet. They crushed Kenosha last night. They destroyed it. Anyone who stood in their way got pummeled. This man was knocked to the ground unconscious. He's 71 years old. He didn't do anything wrong. He was just trying to defend his store from arsonists. Watch what happened.
This poor man got his business caught on fire. Dude, I'm going to help this guy. I don't give a if I get beat up.
It was almost exclusively young people in the street committing violence. It always is. As the fires burned, normal people in Kenosha cowered in their homes. As it happens, the city is home to a sizable Hispanic immigrant population. There's no evidence they participated in any of this. They weren't in the street yelling about the police or BLM. They're just here to work. That's what working people do. They work. They don't riot, as if we needed more evidence. This is actually a class war masquerading as a race conflict. That's exactly what it is, designed to crush America's middle class, and it's working. As the sun rose on Kenosha this morning, the scale of the destruction became painfully obvious. Watch this store owner in Kenosha discover that everything she worked for is gone.
They all came in here and ruined our community, and it wasn't theirs to ruin. This is horrible. It's just, this business started in 1961. We serviced everybody. It's just so wrong. I don't know what else to say.
We service everybody, she says. You can hear the confusion in her voice. Why did they do this to me? And the short answer is because they could. Nobody stopped them from burning down her business or burning down the city. The Kenosha County Democratic Party didn't stop them. The Democratic Party of Kenosha decided to embrace the mob. The party boarded up its local headquarters just in case its own voters mistook it for a Wendy's or a church. Then they plastered BLM signs on the plywood. So why is this happening? What's the pretext for this violence? Why are mobs destroying Kenosha? Well, you may know the outlines of the story. On Sunday, police shot a man called Jacob Blake. And in the very first hours, when decisions are made about how to respond, Democrats assured us that Blake was a completely innocent victim, just as they told us that George Floyd was a completely innocent victim. But now we know it was more complicated than that. It usually is. Blake was wanted on a warrant for sex crimes. He had a history of violence, including domestic violence. Seconds before he was shot, critically, Blake was fighting with police. That's clear from the rest of the video that we didn't see until after they started burning the city of Kenosha. In the tape, police appear to tell Blake to drop the knife. Blake had been arrested before for threatening people with a gun, so the police did have reason to be nervous. Blake refused to surrender. He went straight for his car and reached for something. That's when the police shot him. So the question is, did Blake have a gun in the car? That is the central question. The authorities won't tell us the answer to that question, which is interesting. Wisconsin's Attorney General refused to say whether Blake was armed, even when he was asked directly. Again, that's not a small point. It's the whole point. If Jacob Blake had a gun, officers were right to shoot him, period. So we should know that immediately before more buildings are burned and more 71-year-olds are beaten unconscious on the street. But we don't know the answer tonight. Tony Evers, the left-wing governor of Wisconsin, doesn't want you to know the answer. He wants you to believe that Blake was shot in the back by a racist cop for the crime of being black. Maybe that's true, maybe it's not. Maybe we have a right to know the details. But Evers doesn't want the details public, he wants riots. CNN wants riots too. Last night, for a few seconds, CNN accidentally told the truth about what is happening in Kenosha. This is remarkable. Check out the screen here. Watch as they scrub any reference to violence.
Set the scene for us. Walk us through what you're learning.
That's right, Wolf. Well, there are a lot of investigations playing out right now trying to figure out what led up to Jacob Blake being shot. But what we do know for sure is that people are angry. They have expressed that anger through demonstrations.
Do you see it disappear? It's like one of those old Soviet photographs in the Stalin era. Oh, where's Bukharin? Oh, he was never there. It's a remarkably revealing clip. CNN accidentally committing journalism before the Dwarf King catches wind of it and shuts it down. Stop telling the truth. You'll also notice that their screen before and after refers to Jacob Blake as, quote, unarmed. Unarmed. Do we know that Jacob Blake was unarmed? No, we don't know that. In fact, as we just told you, it appears the police believed otherwise. But we certainly tonight can't say categorically he was unarmed. That's a lie. CNN is lying to you. Why? You know why. They're trying to manipulate you. They've got an election to win. Nothing is more important than that. Nothing. And that would include democracy itself. Last week during the Democratic convention, we played you long clips of it. Leading Democrats, including Barack Obama, used the word democracy scores of times. The point is to defend democracy, they told us. But Hillary Clinton has admitted, actually, democracy could be a speed bump on the way to what they want. Watch this.
Joe Biden should not concede under any circumstances because I think this is going to drag out, and eventually I do believe he will win if we don't give an inch and if we are as focused and relentless as the other side is.
He shouldn't concede under any circumstances? What if he loses the election? No! He should never concede, says Hillary Clinton, no matter what the results are. No matter what voters want as expressed by their votes. We must rule regardless of what the population desires. Oh, talk about redefining democracy. This is the Democratic Party's new version. And if you don't like it, maybe they'll send some peaceful protesters to your house. Mark Meadows is the Chief of Staff over at the White House. We're happy to have him on tonight. Mr. Meadows, thanks so much for coming on. So I have to ask you about the continuing violence in Kenosha. It has reached a point where people are getting hurt, huge amounts of properties being destroyed. I mean, it does seem out of control. Why is this being allowed to continue?
Well, it is out of control, and it can't be allowed to continue, Tucker. You're exactly right. Obviously, I got a call today from the congressman that represents that district, from Senator Johnson as well, really just pleading for help, said that the local sheriff and mayor and police chief need some additional assistance. So I got on the phone right away and called the governor and offered assistance in the form of additional National Guard help. As you know, they're going to have some additional National Guard there tonight. But you've got to, as a governor and as elected officials, you've got to either ignore the problem, which a lot of liberal governors are doing exactly that. They're ignoring the problem, or you have to deal with it. And consequently, when you deal with it, you have to make sure that you have enough people on the ground to not let the rioting go. You listen, we have a First Amendment right that allows you to peacefully protest, but you do not have a First Amendment right to loot and to riot. And what we're seeing on the streets of Kenosha really just breaks our heart. The president was on the phone with the governor today as well. We have National Guard standing by that if the general for the National Guard needs additional help, we're there to do it. But today, that request was denied by the governor.
I just keep thinking, and clearly Tony Evers wants riots. He's the governor of Wisconsin. He should be ashamed. This is a moral stain, in my opinion. But I keep thinking, if these were right-wing protesters and they were screaming racial epithets and intimidating Democratic voters, the Department of Justice Civil Rights Division would not allow that to stand for 3 months. Do you think they would? Why are they allowing this? I honestly don't understand.
Well, I can tell you that as we've gone in, there are a couple of things that have happened behind the scenes, Tucker. You're right to have called it out, not just here in Kenosha, but in Portland. You've been covering that on a regular basis. I know we've made over 99 actual arrests in Portland. But here's the interesting thing is when you go in and you've got a local DA in Portland, that is, where they won't even arrest people. And if they arrest them, they let them out the next day. It's just a perpetual problem that you have, and that's why when we look at it, we have to do a number of things federally. The president has been very clear with me, very clear with the Attorney General. Enough is enough. It's time to make sure that we restore the safety of those communities, setting up a task force to make sure that there are some of those federal arrests that I just mentioned. But even in addition to that is making sure that we have additional federal resources. So the appeal tonight to the people of Kenosha is the president is willing to help. It's time that we take control, and hopefully the number of National Guard that they have in tonight will actually restore peace. But I'm not optimistic.
Oh boy, what a tragedy. Mark Meadows, thanks so much for joining us tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Tucker. Good to be with you.
Thanks. Well, corporate America, as we've told you in some detail, is sending tens of millions of dollars to BLM. What is BLM doing with the money? What are BLM activists up to today? Well, in some cities, they've been surrounding diners as they try to eat their meals and screaming racial epithets at them. Very few have resisted, but a few have, and we want to highlight their courage after the break. Well, it's a big night at the RNC ahead, including surprise appearances from the president, his wife, and many others. Some interesting speakers tonight. Keep it right here on Fox.